There's a team in our project called Build the Earth Balkans. Now you might be saying, what is Balkans? Balkans is a European region that basically covers all of this. 300 and Leonidas, right there. Athens, over there. The Persian Empire, Alexander the Great, the Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire, Ottomans. So much crazy shit has gone on here, and the area, its architecture, and everything that has been made and accomplished by humans has streaks of meaning, shades of influence from all of these times in history. We gotta see it in Minecraft, and we will, now. This is everything Greece and Hungary have ever done. And with all that in mind, f*** history. Here's a wacky modern building with absolutely no ties to any of that. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's the Hotel Swissôtel within the Sarajevo city center. Now this building is crazy. Just look at how crazy it is. But it gets crazier. Let's take a rare moment that this can happen and build the Earth and actually take a look inside of the building. That's right. They interiored every square foot of this building to have an even crazier interior than the outer exterior. Balkans claims that this is the largest interior, and if you're looking for details, they might be right. In terms of square feet, you have Poland, Russia, New York, maybe some other teams that I missed who are doing an interior of an entire mall, most of them not finished yet, but so far enormous. So biggest is definitely contested, but it's absolutely the craziest and the coolest. Don't do drugs, kids. Now, it wouldn't be a visit to Greece without a stop at the notorious Acropolis Museum, this very interesting looking building that has thousands of artifacts and pieces of the Acropolis on display. In the 80s, they needed a new museum, and they actually held a competition between architects in order to be selected for the projects, and the Italians won. What a surprise. But enough about the museum. What about the Acropolis itself? Well, here it is in all of its glory. Balkans have completed a line of villas and structures climbing up to the hill of the Acropolis to create a glorious view from a certain angle. As for the Parthenon that sits atop the Acropolis, it's not yet complete, which is characteristic of its natural state in the real world, completely falling apart, having been built in 447 BC. You can imagine that this thing is crumbling merely because it's over 2,500 years old at this point, but it was actually in pretty good condition all the way up until 1687. The Acropolis was held by the Ottoman Empire, being assaulted by the Venetians. The Ottomans were using the Parthenon to store their gunpowder, and then the Venetians hit the building with a mortar shell, causing it all to explode. 300 people killed, but hey, who cares about that? The real damage was the complete destruction of the roof and most of the walls. It's a wonder a shell of the building is still standing, a shadow of its former self, not a victim to time, but to more human carelessness. After the conflict, the Venetians considered razing what remained of the Parthenon's walls, but instead just looted what was left, and as they were moving marble statues out, many of them toppled over, shattering on the ground into pieces. I'm ready for a time variance authority once we figure out time travel so we can punish people throughout history for their unconscionable historical crimes. Directly in view of all of this is the also completed Syntagma Square, built by Damascus in Minecraft, the most important historical and modern square of Athens, the heart of Greek politics, and being so near these timeless ancient remains. The square is overlooked by the Hellenic Parliament Old Royal Palace, opened a century ago and serves both as government building and museum. It was here in the square that a popular uprising supported by the military gathered, demanding that King Otto granted them Greece's first constitution, which he did. Over a century later, in 2010 and 2012, the square was also the site of mass protests due to continual economic despair. The first official event that unified Europe to do an area together was the Koper Europe event, where they manifested an awesome area here in Koper, Slovenia. The largest coastal city in the country, this town was actually named Justinopolis in 568. Whoever Justin was, he must have been a really great guy. In 1900, 92% of the population spoke Italian, until it was annexed by Yugoslavia. Many Italians left town, and today it's pretty much the opposite, most speaking Slovene. Wild. So here's the Pula Arena. It's wildly unfinished in Minecraft, with some surrounding progress, but if you take a look at this place in real life, it's known as the most well-preserved Roman Coliseum that we still have from that area. It's amazing because of how good this looks, and it gives you a concept of if people were just more careful, we could have had other Coliseums, monuments, the Parthenon, in this kind of shape. But plundering and looting seem tied to our nature, an external expression of the internal chaos within the human soul. But things endure and carry on. Things like the Sarajevo Town Hall, built by Greyfenders, with a ton of accompanying progress in interesting buildings and select architecture in the area, like the cathedral. Originally worked on by the Czech architect Karel Pank, he actually stopped working on the project due to repeated criticism from the Baron and statesman Benny Calais. That guy was out of his mind. This thing is f***ing cool. Sarajevo rose from the shadows and asserted itself historically as an Ottoman stronghold, and I feel like nothing expresses itself as such more than this town hall. Matching its style is the Sacred Heart Cathedral, built in Neo-Gothic and a relic of the historical strength of Catholicism. Sarajevo is the heart of Balkans activity for a reason, being known as the Jerusalem of Europe, and the only major European area to have a Catholic church, Eastern Orthodox church, mosque, and synagogue all within the same neighborhood. They've also made this one, not just because it's so small and it would be easy, but because it's quaint, beautiful, and I just think it's neat. St. George Island are two little islands off the coast of Kotar, Montenegro. Just imagine living on this tiny little island, totally filled by the estate situated on the landmass. I love it. And speaking of Kotar, they've begun some progress on the Bay of Kotar, with a waterfront, bridges, and some interesting architecture and buildings featured with the coastline. And in terms of one building with interesting architecture, what better way to view it than to take a quick stroll from wherever you happen to live to come visit the Palace of Serbia, Serbia's center of government. It took so long to design and create during the latter half of the 20th century, one of the architects involved died before the project was able to be completed. Its unique H shape makes it the largest building in Serbia if you're measuring by area covered, and was originally named Palace of Federation, a name that was eventually discarded after the whole communist project going bust thing happened. Now look at this demonic f***ing church that looks like it rose out of the sea. They call this Dubrovnik's Gibraltar, but what it's really called is Lovrijenac. I'm trying my best with the name here. It's a 1,000-year-old historical legend that you would expect was involved in many battles, but really its creation was a struggle to assert power over the city of Dubrovnik itself. Contrary to being a church, the fort hosts a theater, which is an interesting choice. I would have preferred human death matches, but you do you. And this fits well with the ancient history associated with this port island city, Zakynthos, of which the Balkans team have completed a number of coastline city blocks, as well as the dams and the levees, and the whatever. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about this. I've learned so much since starting this. If we learn any more, I feel like my brain is going to hit cooking temperature. But yes, Homer, the ancient Greek poet, not the Simpsons guy, mentions Zakynthos in the famous Iliad and the Odyssey. We're going back to the late Bronze Age and 800 BC with this kind of reference. Since then, I mean, it's almost comedy at this point. I can tell you 15 different empires, nations, and peoples who conquered this area only to lose it to the next guy. Poor Balkans, I swear to God, the region right in the middle of everything. Balkans has started working on residential homes in the city of Visegrad, and begun progress on a nearby bridge from the Ottoman era, and the same type of progress in this cute little village of Hubavanel. And here we have a really unique city square between two city areas of Zagreb called Gradec and Kaptol, beginning 500 years ago when a marketplace was created, and then they just started building around the marketplace until you had this incredible historical feel of a town square in both the central market and accompanying buildings. Just something out of time. This is another place that saw the slow transition from horses to trams to electronic trams. The traffic was so bad, they banned cars from entering the square since 1975, presumably to restore its older historical feel. In Tirana, Albania, we've built some cool stuff including the International Hotel, City Hall, an Orthodox cathedral, and a museum. And those are all well and cool, but look at the Skanderbeg Square. That texture, my god, I don't even know what it looks like. Reminds me of morning cereal, or maybe, you know those little blue monsters chanting rock from Galaxy Quest? Yeah, it looks like they were dancing on this square, then some giant with a hammer just saw them and decided to go to town. The Skanderbeg Square is a recent historical creation, only here for about a century, and is dominated by the Skanderbeg Monument, depicting Skanderbeg, a national hero in Albania who fought against the Ottoman Empire. Now, you may have heard of the builder Daniel TNC on this channel before. He created a personal project in Ljubljana, and the team's Balkans and Alps decided to join him and build on the other side of the river to create the area of progress you see before you. Ljubljana is the capital of Slovenia. Daniel TNC's progress includes this circular roundabout, with the neighboring event progress centered around St. Nicholas's Cathedral. All of this being in the downtown area. Another downtown area that's being worked on is this interesting city square in Vlasenica. The house is shaped into what looks like a flying V from the Mighty Ducks. Yes, I'm a 90s kid, get used to it. But yeah, some messed up stuff happened in this town that I'm actually not gonna mention. Look it up yourself, I'm monetized on here for my survival. Anyways, they also made the Hadrija Mosque, which really converts to Minecraft really well. Look at how spiffy that looks. And then there's this thick little square of city blocks done in Rijeka, a city in Croatia. Croatia neighbors the Italian peninsula on the Mediterranean Sea, and look at how thick this little thing is. It's thick. These fancy buildings would be safe to assume that it's commercial. There isn't one guy that lives in these places that essentially look like stylish square malls. No, there's many people, both employees and shoppers, in a district well within Roman territory that capitalizes on the aesthetic. Now, speaking of what's really thick, there's also the Yugoslav Ministry of Defense building. Of course, it's thick. If you're gonna defend from shells and bullets and stuff, you kinda need to be. And yeah, it actually wasn't just shot at, but bombed and heavily damaged during the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia in 1999. That was not a party. Fortunately, it wasn't this part of the Yugoslavian Ministry of Defense. It was the building just across the street that got hit. This building is considered a masterpiece if you exclude pre-World War architecture, which is fair, considering our design went down in several IQ points or just perhaps lost all artistry and focused purely on efficiency when something in our soul was lost when we transcended to the modern world, which we once marveled as an unprecedented wonder, but some are starting to think is actually some kind of insane prison that does nothing to nourish our soul. But anyways, so you're gonna see in this area, that boundary around the progress, typical of Build the Earth events. Though I've noticed no one ever bothers to remove these things after an event is finished, it just stays there for all of time. You're just gonna have to stare at it while we look at the progress. We can just pretend it actually exists in real life. Maybe one of those secret invisible modern prison barriers I was ranting about or something. But next to the area of progress here in Sofia is the St. Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. This gorgeous church that looks f***ing delicious, oh my god. Constructed in the Neo-Byzantine style. You remember the Byzantine Empire? The eastern part of the Roman Empire that didn't collapse and went on LARPing as Romans for the next 1,000 years? Now this was built modern. It's hard to imagine previous civilizations being able to create something like this, but it's still earlier than I thought. Late 1800s, which actually totally matches with the romantic nature of the era. Kind of reminds me of the film The Moulin Rouge, which also depicted the same time period. Now check this out. A truly epic span of completed area in the village of Svetlovrchin, Sofia. This started out as a grassroots movement of builders, led by the users Tsunami and Collard, and they would eventually completely finish the residential area of the village. Team Balkans rewarded them with Builder of the Month rank, but in my opinion, it should be Builder of the Year. I hope people living in this village have had a chance to see this. The larger city it's in, Sofia, has been inhabited since 7000 BC. That is insane. When it comes to the rural villages that comprise the outer suburban areas of cities like these, I can't help but wonder what it would be like to live there. Not in the modern era where they've got TVs and shit and it's all very nice. No. I mean historically, when any given era is exchanging hands in ownership between this nation, that empire, that king, and every single switch usually involves brutal bloodshed and conquering, one must wonder how civilization remains, given the lack of stability. The endurance of these people throughout the ages is really commendable, and despite the notorious and epic struggles that describe their past, villages like these look so peaceful and alluring, like you could forget all of your troubles. And if you want to take that feeling to the next dimension, check out this sleepy little port of Ohrid in Macedonia. This place has also been referred to as Jerusalem of the Balkans, at one point having exactly 365 churches, one for each day of the year. It's a tourism sunspot with its history, glorious weather, glorious views and alluring architecture, and much of the sliver of this city in Minecraft just gives us a taste of the possibilities within this region. My bucket list for places to travel to at this point spans 3 lifetimes, almost 2 of them from the insane areas we've seen in this episode. Here's a similarly dreamy area named Split. Yeah, that's the city's name, and this is the waterfront. The focal point of the city and the main public square, it is the area for all sorts of events and parades. Conversely, if you want to come here for retirement because you just won the lottery, you could do that as well. Just like every other place we've covered in this area, comedically named Split comes from the ancient Greek colony Aspathalos, founded in 200 BC, over 2,000 years ago, and was not protected from the eventual Ottoman chaos. But what's cool is that the Venetians were able to hold on to Split while the Ottomans took over literally everything around it. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Napoleon, Hitler, etc. All sorts of historical forces took over this area, but at least they resisted the former. Suck it, Ottomans. And also in Split, here's the gigantic Marriott Hotel, accompanying finished square blocks and gorgeously tall. While we're taking a look at that, I have to say, we're nearing the end, my friends. But there's one more thing we have to appreciate before we go. You see, in Balkans, there are heroes and there are villains. But heroes never die. One hero in particular is a legend, rumored to be named Zelninlist. He has been the driving force behind so many of the creations you've seen. We've got a giant list of them, and to appreciate the incredible lengths this builder has gone to create the iconic classics that Team Balkans have managed to create and build the Earth, we're gonna go through them in rapid fire. First off, I don't think we've seen this huge completed area in Novi Sad, Serbia. This is a mega project of Balkans of which Zelninlist built the Freedom Square, the Gymnasium, and the Giardino nightclub. Here in this area also sits the St. George's Cathedral right next to the Freedom Square, which was actually burnt down in a bombing in 1849 due to uprisings in Greater Austria going on at the time. So we don't have the authentic 1734 version. It's more like the 1880 version, which there's a cathedral-like church in Seattle built around the same time. Washington State finally has a moment to feel special. Zelninlist also built this lovely church on a hill in the city of Rovini with some in-progress surrounding area, and this incredible architecture in the form of a courthouse and this incredible Sava Ognyanov drama theater, which looks just as soon like it's about to kill you rather than entertain you, and this lovely park and additional buildings in the area. This guy's like the Minecraft's Picasso, I swear to God. Oh wait, that was just a basic bitch painter reference. Everyone hates Picasso, right? Leonardo da Vinci. There. And if you thought that was it, he's also made incredible progress on this dream of a port area in Dubrovnik with centuries-old pier walls, lookouts. This place is taken straight from a fantasy novel in the 1600s, and you can see it, whether that's from the $3,000 flight hotel and accommodations in the area to get there, or for free in this video. You can come here for the incredible views and gorgeous history. Just read the thousands of Google reviews of people who came to places like this and it changed their life. Places like this need way more progress in Build the Earth, and Zelninlist needs help because he can't make them all. Join Balkans today. Another banger from Zelninlist, this incredible area in central Sofia in Bulgaria that has a number of famous attractions, including the Sveta Nedelya Cathedral, which was only a cathedral for 1,000 years, but interestingly enough, on the same spot there was a temple prior to the construction of the cathedral. Also, just next door there's the St. George Rotunda Church, surrounded and encased by this larger modern building. This is a perfectly preserved Roman bathhouse that was converted to a small church built back in the 4th century. As you can see, both in Minecraft and in real life, it's absolutely beautiful. Is anyone allowed inside? In, under, and around the bathhouse, there has been ancient ruins and clues as to what surrounded this bathhouse almost 2,000 years ago. A street connecting and many ancient buildings next to it. The fact that this was well preserved through Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, Napoleon, and the World Wars is a goddamn miracle. What an awesome choice to behold. Golf clap for Balkans, and glory to Rome. Now you might be wondering, How do I join Balkans? Well, there's a builder trial where they put you in a certain area and see if you can build the buildings. One such area was the application area in Belgrade, which ended up seeing a good amount of progress. I'm told Zelninlist also built here, which would indicate that one of these was his first creations and introduction to continue to make amazing things. Another one built by him is the Central Square in Plovdiv, a district in Plovdiv, Bulgaria that has most of its historical sites for tourism, the Roman Stadium, an Odeon, ancient theaters, shopping centers. It's just a ball out there. I'm wondering how these tourist sunspots hold up these countries' local economy. I'm guessing it's a huge influence with how monumental these areas are, being the cradle of Roman civilization, generally regarded as the precursor to our current one. Here's a really cool tower, the White Tower of Thessaloniki, which replaced an older Byzantine one in the 12th century. Now, if this looks a little grittier and less impressive than Roman architecture, there's a reason they call this period the Dark Ages. Human progress in history is a continuum and it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Many people today think that we're finally out of the jungle, safe from harm, utopia incoming. Sorry, we've just been going up, and we're on trend to go down. Buy survival gear. But Zelninlist blows our minds yet again with this addition, the Western City Gate, otherwise known as the Gen X Tower in Serbia. It was designed like a gate to be welcoming to anyone who comes here. Fancy that. The larger portion of the tower is largely, a great commercial zone, host to many businesses and amazing experiences. The smaller connected tower is a residential apartment, the towers being 36 stories tall, so one would imagine that's a lot of apartments. I wonder what the largest penthouses cost. He's also helped build the Zagreb Square, which we've already seen, improving the sights in Minecraft with a renovation of the area. Now, I know, you forgot your lunch, probably chocolate-covered pizza, right? And you left it in the fridge. Don't worry, I got you. The next location, Hungary, opens up with something that blew my mind. Gellert Hill is the mound you see before you. At its top lay the Citadella, a fort which was established as a symbol of the city. Gellert Hill is named after Gerard of Senad, who, legend has it, was seized during the Great Pagan Rebellion of 1046. He was rolled to the top of the hill in a wagon and thrown off of it, still alive by the time he tumbled to the bottom, and subsequently beaten to death. Gerard was an ascertainable person in history, but his specific cause of death isn't actually confirmed, as this is a legend. Legends to follow would be things like witches holding ceremonies on top of the mount. Today you'll see tourists viewing the area and probably tweeting about their neo-paganism. The insane castle complex sitting next to the hill is none other than Buda Castle, completed about 1,000 years ago. But not the iteration of the castle you see before you, the original. Only fragments remain of it today. And it makes sense because there was a lot of conflict with the Ottoman invasions of the 15th century. Those crazy Ottomans. I can't wait for the Battle of Vienna where you get your asses kicked, which leads to a chain of losses that brings your empire to its knees and then ceases to exist when World War I concludes. So this castle outlived the Ottomans who wronged it. Vengeance. It underwent a major reconstruction in the 1950s to become the structure you're recognizing today. Hungary is incredibly scenic, and its lure is demonstrated no greater than this beautiful little river town named Szentendre. I'm sure I've been butchering these names throughout this whole series. With its historic architecture and easy river accessibility, it becomes a tourist hotspot. But centuries ago, it wasn't. Phone-addicted 21st century modern humans would have been too busy looking at their screens to notice they're about to get cut in half by an Ottoman scimitar. The Ottoman invasions completely depopulated this town until only one family was living there during the 17th century. But once the Ottomans were gone, they brought people back. Yay, happy ending. And it gets even happier. Eventually, families of Dalmatians immigrated here to live. I hope they get happy homes and loving owners. There's also the Pécs TV Tower, located in the town of Pécs. I'm sure hauling all the metal and materials to build this thing in the 1970s gave them great pecs. And there's also St. Stephen's Basilica, dedicated to Hungary's first king, Stephen, who started ruling in the year 1000. Epic. What's even more epic is there used to be the Hetz Theater before this was built, sitting on the very spot, which hosted lots of animal fights. If that sounds crazy, just imagine what the Coliseum era was like, when local sport was watching two people fight to the death. People would go nuts. Human bloodlust is a real thing. You get a teeny tiny percent of it in those modern hockey fights. That's nothing compared to the real thing. We are monsters. Anyway, this monster of a building is created in the neoclassical design with a Greek cross ground plan for the interior, and is an amazing thing to visit. We've also got the Margaret Bridge, a three-way bridge designed by French engineer Ernest Gowan, and is the second oldest public bridge in Budapest. And aside from a three-way with Margaret, Team Hungary have also started progress in Győr Square, with a few city blocks and the nearby one-way bridge to complement. And might I say, the wonderful tastes of Hungarian culture we've gotten and how it can look in Minecraft have been wonderful and intriguing to see, enough to leave us wanting more. A huge congratulations to the team for all they've accomplished these 4 years. Okay, we can stop playing Hungarian Rhapsody now, because that is everything Hungary, Greece, and the larger Balkans area have ever done. A huge thanks to the teams for opening our eyes to this incredible region and the architectural treasure it holds. Join us next time for some more mind-blowing shit. A huge thanks to our top tier 5 patrons, Solly and Third Edit Man. Thanks to your support, I'm not hungry anymore. Chocolate-covered pizza.